it's Ina here, and yes, it is time to make another art journal for some of my pages. So I cut to size some cardboard. This is taken from an old book cover, so it's very sturdy, but of course you can use normal chipboard. I also gave it a coat of gesso. I cut a spine, and this is the way it's going to go together. Now, for starters, I will be covering all this with some very simple cotton fabric. And as soon as I got it covered, I will be back. So the side panels are covered, and for the spine I wanted to loop the material across the end, but it's a bit too short. So I added instead two little pieces, and now I am also adding two strips of duct tape I cut to size to help the hinging, because otherwise the hinge from the spine to the panels would just be the cotton material, and that's a bit thin. So with the duct tape it makes it way stronger. Now I'm adding the side panels just using my tacky glue. And yes, I angled the top and bottom of the material just a little bit so it will fit better. And yes, everything is a little bit crooked on the material, I know, but really it doesn't matter. Everything is getting covered up. The main thing is to line it up really straight so the book itself will be straight when it's all done, and it will be. Here you can see the other side, and it will bend like this. And I'm adding a little more gel medium just to secure some of the fibers and the hinge. And then before I let it dry, I'm actually going ahead and adding some modeling paste. So all this can then dry at the same time. So this is just a simple little stencil, and I'm just adding the design all over the front here. And then, of course, all this has to dry completely. Now it is all dry, it bends great. And before I go on and color the outside, I also want to add some gesso to the inside. So at this point, everything is dry and it's time to color the outside of the journal. I'm using simple craft paint mixed with a little gesso. That way I can get some different shades of turquoise, and I will be just covering the whole outside of the book very simply. And here it is, all done and dry. And now I want to use these alcohol inks. This is a new medium for me. I just got a couple of colors very recently, and of course I have to try them out. So it's pretty simple here. I just let it drip two different colors. One is purple, one is red, a nice shade of red, and I just let it drip down, dry it real well. And now I'm using some of my champagne, which is an off-white metallic paint, to bring out the texture a little bit, mostly on the very top of the journal. And I go on with my dry brush and just a little bit of the same paint to also bring a little more interest to the spine and the back of the journal. Now, because it was covered in the linen fabric, it has a real nice texture and the paint looks really nice on it. And this is very ordinary brown shoe polish, and I apply it with a soft cloth, and it just gives it an aged look, and it's super easy to apply, and I like the looks of it. I think it gives a very natural brown stain, which makes it look a little older and used. So a tiny bit on the front, not much, just where the lighter parts are. And I polish it a bit so there is not too much on it. And that's pretty much it. And right about here, I added also some Glossy Sealer to the whole outside of the cover. And while that is drying, I'm going to work on my little decoration piece. It's a die cut, it's a wooden die cut of a little vine with some flowers. Now it comes in gray, so give it first a coat of white gesso. And I'm using a very dry brush, as that way I don't fill in the tiny little holes and crevices which are hard to clean once you get big blobs of paint or gesso in there. And as soon as coverage is right, I'm adding again my metallic paint, the champagne color, which is really an off-white. I will keep this decoration rather simple, just the champagne color and then a tiny bit of turquoise on the flowers. And even there, I'm not careful to cover them completely, but just give it a little
hint of color. So I'm speeding this up quite a bit as it took a little while because of all the little curves you have to cover and so on. So here is my turquoise color, and now it can be glued to the cover. I'm using tacky glue and lots of tiny little dots, as this die cut has so many different corners and I want it to stick really well. So this goes right in the front of my cover, just like that. And of course, will have to dry really well. Now to the inside. As you see, I did add a little bit of turquoise to the very edges because now I'm just adding a piece of fabric which I ripped to size because I like the edges a little frayed, and you've seen me do this many times before. Now in order to get this fabric in there fairly straight, I'm doing just a little bit at a time, and I'm using gel medium, and it works okay. Now this fabric is a tiny bit stretchy, so it's a little hard. I have to kind of manipulate it to make it go where I want it, but in the end, it's okay. It's not perfectly straight, but hey, we are not going for perfection here. So let's see. Even though I sped this up, it's taking a little while and I could have probably shortened it. But maybe this is a good thing to see for you if you're new to using fabric for your journals. I find it really easy for the inside of journals, as of course you can do it all in one piece, which you cannot really do when you use paper. So I put a little glue on the edges and then it all needs to dry. And there it is, nearly done.
Let me give you one more look at the completed journal. I enjoyed working with these alcohol inks. I like the texture and it feels nice. The sealer gave it a textured and yet smooth surface. I like the little die cut here, very simple. The shoe polish, I think, gave it a nice aged look. And yeah, in the inside, I opted for this material. It is actually very thin corduroy. Yeah, it's funny. Now the turquoise fits perfect. And I just added a couple little paper things here so I can write down when I started this and when I finished it. And it has just a couple little pages. And of course I added these Chicago screws just by making 2 holes. And actually this design is very much like the wonderful journal my friend Andrea made for me. And I will put a link to the video where she shows how she put this together in my description box. Now, when I got this, I decided to use it for my weekly prompts for this year, which means 52 pages. But of course, there is no way I can get 52 pages in here. I have, let's see, 18 by now, and it's already pretty full. I think I can add just a few more, but I made this to be my second journal for the remaining pages. So it's very similar in construction and size, but my screws are also a tiny bit higher. So I think a couple more pages in here, which brings me up to 20, and then the rest will fit in there. And then those 2 will be my prompts for 2017. Hopefully, when I'm all done, I have 52 fun pages. All right, this was it for today. Thank you so much for coming and watching. See you soon again. Bye-bye for now.